As a fan content creator, sometimes we get stuck in the conundrum of having to have very tough conversations, very objective, tough conversations about the team we hold near and dear to our heart and some of the players that we grow attached to within our organization. And sometimes you get caught in fan brain where you cannot impartially tell the temperature of a situation. This Terry McLaurin versus the Commanders situation is currently dividing the fan base, and there are so many moving parts and context needed when we have this conversation. But today we discuss what's next. How do we get to a resolution between Adam Peters and Terry McLaurin? And if there were to be a change of scenery, what is a better situation for one wide receiver, Terry McLaurin? Let's have a tough conversation. I'm Rio Robinson. Let's get it. What's good? Good morning, Washington Commanders Nation. It's your boy Rio Robinson, back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about our Washington Commanders. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, the penultimate day of the month of July, and the day before the first NFL preseason game. 24 hours plus from now, we're going to be watching Trey Lance, who I just found out played for the Chargers yesterday, when a tweet went out, versus Hendon Hooker on our television screen, and I'm ready to run through a wall to talk about it. So much football topics to talk about when it comes to our Washington Commanders right now, but there's nothing more polarizing, nothing more nauseating than this Terry McLaurin contract situation. For Adam Peters, Josh Harris and company, it's been all sunshine and rainbows. It's been all kumbaya, phenomenal family vibes since they took over this team. Well, since Josh Harris brought in Adam Peters and company, we got criticized for bringing in so many old players and for signing so many players and turning over the roster in 2024. And we proceeded to get off to our first 7-2 start in like 30 fucking years. Everything was going swell. We got hit with some minor adversity. Jaden Daniels bruised this baby back ribs, and we lost 3 games in a row, and proceeded to win every game after that 3-game losing streak until the NFC Championship, where the Eagles slam dunked on us, dragged testicle on us on a posterizing dunk, 55-23. They tell us the score every time we talk to them. Those are many feats of adversity, not real adversity. A 3-game losing streak, yeah, they went 12-5. We lost in the NFC Championship. We should not have been there in year one, which tells you how special Jaden Daniels, this coaching staff, and this team around him were in year one. This is the first prolonged adversity that the Harris ownership group and Adam Peters' regime of football operations has faced here in D.C. in their first 2 years here. So seeing how this is handled and how they rectify this situation is going to tell us a lot about our guy, Adam Peters. I know the emotional connection between Terry McLaurin because he's been here for 6 years. He's been holding it down. He's been producing no matter if they got me at the quarterback position. And I promise you, with some of the niggas that we've put out there at quarterback, it's felt like they've had me out there. But as Washington Redskins football team, Commanders, whatever iteration of the moniker you'd like to call this football team that we know and love, we have to come to our senses a bit and put our big boy and big girl pants on, because this is the football operations we begged for. We begged for a GM to have full reins and autonomy of the football program here and always do what's right for the team. Yes, and that includes doing right by the players, especially the leaders, the culture setters, the faces of your operation. But the way this would have got done under Napoleon Bonaparte Snyder's reign in DC is he would have colluded in this situation. He would have stepped down from his stupid ass yacht with his IMAX screen and paid Terry the Jamar Chase contract and deaded this shit. We're not going to sit here and go through this with Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin means everything. Terry McLaurin does mean everything to this organization, but this team has to move a little bit different now. And Adam Peters, the pragmatic approach of crunching numbers and trying to find a deal that is not only good for Terry, but that is good for the Washington Commanders, because a few years from now, we are going to give Jaden Daniels the biggest contract in NFL history. You know it's coming. You know Mama Jackson, Ron Butler, and Team Jaden, they are going to get everything in this world, and it's going to be deservedly so. So the priority is keeping a win now championship approach roster around Jaden during this rookie contract and keeping a stable environment there. So after we pay him, we're continuing to have our title window open. And a part of that title window is extending Terry McLaurin, because let's not get it fucked up. We are not going anywhere or winning any Super Bowl in 2025 without one Terry McLaurin. So let's have some conversations. Terry McLaurin and his agent, Buddy Baker, who I think is in over his head, by the way, considering that he has never represented a big client before and Terry's his biggest one to date, they want more than the DK Metcalf contract given by the Pittsburgh Steelers after Pittsburgh traded for Seattle star receiver this offseason. So as fans, what do we want? Do we want a GM that does his thorough due diligence and is willing to play hardball contractually, or do we want him following bad beats? And what I mean by that is, do y'all remember when the Browns traded for massage menace Deshaun Watson and they gave him a fully guaranteed deal, and every owner in the league was fucking yucked out and disgusted by it? Because what the hell do you mean you gave him a fully guaranteed deal? So after seeing that nasty approach to a contract, as fans, would that make you want your team to follow bad business just because bad business set a precedent? So because the Pittsburgh Steelers did a bad contract for DK Metcalf, Washington's supposed to follow suit and do the same for Terry McLaurin. Yes, if they did overpay Terry McLaurin a little bit, we would all understand it. That's going to be a Ring of Fame player for this organization one day, and a top 2 to 3 productive wide receiver if he lasts a lifetime here in DC. And the only option here is for him to last a lifetime. That's a Redskins football team commander lifer. But you don't just do bad business because bad business was presented to you. That is not how good business works, and that's not how a good football operation works. We either want the team to move like a real professional grown-up organization, or we want to continue a lot of the bullshit from the past. Ari Meroff made his comments today about the Courtland Sutton contract, and let's hear that real quick.
I'm going to stress this. When you look at the numbers and look what Terry McLaurin has done, Courtland Sutton is a great player and had an unbelievable year, and it felt like every week last season was having this crazy acrobatic touchdown catch, which made everyone's jaws drop. At the same time, Terry McLaurin has been the more consistent player, better player on the field, off the field. Courtland has been great on and off as well. But I'm saying, look at the raw numbers. Look at what the player has meant within the organization, especially for an unstable one in Washington until last year. Terry has done more and probably deserves more. So that's going to be the argument being made over here. The question really becomes, would he be willing to go under 30? And to this point, it does not sound like he'll ever consider doing that. So that's why I'm going to continue to say here on the show that this negotiation between the two sides could get very, very complicated, even more complicated than where it was to this point over here over the last several weeks. So I don't think we're any closer to a resolution between Terry and the Commanders, which, again, is pretty shocking to me.
I don't think we're any closer to a resolution here. And we talked about this on the video that I dropped a couple nights ago. Terry McLaurin is better than Courtland Sutton. But the truth that Washington fans don't want to hear is that Terry McLaurin is closer to the Cortland Sutton tier of receiver than the guys in the NFL receiving top pay, excluding DK Metcalf. Because when we look at the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, 40, 35, $34 million on annual salary. Those are top 4, top 5 receivers in this league, and they're 25 years old. So there's no conversation to have here. DK Metcalf had no business getting $32.99 on average annual salary. But just because they went there does not mean Washington has to get there. AJ Brown, 32 million. Garrett Wilson, 32.5 million. Amon-Ra St. Brown getting 30 million a year. I've seen people say if Amon-Ra St. Brown is getting 30 million a year, Terry should easily get 30 a year. Let me break this shit down to you in football facts, since emotion is driving the conversation. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the number 1 receiving option for the best offense in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown has 3 straight seasons of 100 catches. Terry has 0 100 catch seasons. He has multiple double-digit touchdown seasons to Terry's 1 this year, and he has a 1,500-yard season and an over 1,200-yard season. There is no conversation to be had here. On top of that, being 25 years old. This is the problem. Y'all keep throwing away the age part of this conversation. When you look at the top 8 to 10 wide receivers paid in this league, they all got contracts at the latest at their age 27 season. Tyreek Hill is making $30 million on average right now. He received his extension back in 2022, and at the time, it was the highest guarantee a wide receiver had ever gotten in NFL history of $106 million. Tyreek Hill was the best player in the league a couple years ago. Tyreek Hill had an 1,800-yard season, a couple 1,700-yard seasons, and absolutely ripped, ran, and was the biggest weapon in the NFL. The names that don't fit on this list and don't make sense when you see all this are the Brandon Ayuks and the DK Metcalfs of the world, but Washington can't just replicate bad business. Here is how I see the situation. Terry McLaurin's better than Cortland Sutton. He's obviously going to make more money than Cortland Sutton. Where you start the conversation for me is Mike Evans. Mike Evans, going into his age 31 season, the same age that Terry would be going into when his new extension kicks in, got a 2-year extension for up to $52 million. With $35 million guaranteed. So 2 years, 52. Let's do the math on that. That is $26 million a year. $26 million a year. He's still a baller. He still puts up numbers. Just to put this into perspective, Terry had 70 more yards and 2 more touchdowns than Mike Evans last year and 7 more catches. Mike Evans missed 3 games with a hamstring. Mike Evans missed 3 games with a hamstring and only finished with 2 less touchdowns, 77 less yards, and 7 less catches than Terry McLaurin. Mike Evans is a fucking gold jacket Hall of Fame player. He has the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons with like 11, and he's still a part of one of the highest potent passing offenses in the league. Baker threw for 5,000 yards last year. Terry McLaurin, let's say Terry McLaurin's a little bit better than Mike Evans right now. Mike Evans is making $26 million a year. Is Terry McLaurin $8 million, $7 million, $6 million, $5 million a year better than Mike Evans? Those are the conversations you have to have here. Go up another wide receiver. Let's go to DJ Moore in Chicago. DJ Moore is getting $27.5 million a year. Is Terry McLaurin better than DJ Moore? I believe so. I believe Terry McLaurin is a better receiver than DJ Moore. But DJ Moore just turned 28 years old. He's the number 1 receiver in Chicago. He's about as productive as Terry. But I think Terry should be making more than DJ Moore, even though he is a few years younger. The conversation needs to be 28 to 28 and a half million, maxing to like 30. The deal Terry should realistically be seeking is from 28 million a year. So we're talking like 3 years, 86, 87 million dollars, to about 3 years, 90 million. The max Terry and his agent really should be asking for going into his age 30 season is 28 to 29 million dollars a year, which is a raise for Terry McLaurin, guys. Terry McLaurin's due what, 23 million dollars this year. It would be bumping him up, but I think Terry's been fed bad beats by this not qualified agent, an agent that's never written a contract over $15 million a year average salary. I think he's been feeding to Terry that he's going to get him crazy money. And then we go into what Washington's current situation is here. Terry holding in, playing the emotional fan card, showing up to camp the day that fans arrive, the Eastern motive 30-minute soliloquy of why he deserves the pay. I feel him for these things. You got to do what you got to do, because going into your age 30 season, this is your last big payday in the NFL. But there has to be some reason going into this. CeeDee Lamb missed all of training camp for the Dallas Cowboys last year. You take the chance if you let this play out and you don't start practicing to, the soft tissue injuries. I'm not worried about chemistry because our quarterback is one of those ones. He said me and Terry going to get right back to it. I see something that said Jamar Chase hold-in situation caused chemistry issue. I don't want to hear nothing about chemistry issues with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Them niggas played in college and the NFL together. They don't have any chemistry issue. And their offense, while it started slow the first couple weeks of the season, let's be clear, they didn't make the playoffs because their defense is atrocious. So I'm not worried about the chemistry aspect of it all, even though I'd like to see Terry out there with Five and Debo and company. But I just want this to get done. I just want it to get done, and there needs to be reasonable takes on both sides of this thing. For my guy George Carmi, he says NFL Insider. He's more of a draft analyst than an NFL insider, but Tony Pauline shares his stuff, and he puts out a lot of bad beats when it comes to NFL news. He asserts that the deal will be completed sooner than later, will not surpass 30 million. I don't know where he's getting this sooner than later shit from, but let's take a look at what he has to say. Let's see what his article's talking about. McLaurin, who turns 30 years old in September, is in the final year of the 3-year, $68 million contract he signed with the Commanders in 2022, and he wants an extension that will presumably bring him to the end of his career. People I've spoken with tell me that they expect a deal to get done sooner rather than later, though it's not going to be a huge contract. I'm told to expect a 2 to 3 year extension for McLaurin with a bump in pay this season. That makes sense. That part makes sense. The whole bump in pay. So not only an extension, they're going to bump his pay up for this year. So the deal is not going to be some groundbreaking, market shattering contract, but what it's going to do, it's going to bump up his pay for this year as well, probably closer to matching whatever his average annual salary is going to be going forward. The deal signed by Cortland Sutton yesterday should help push things along for the Commanders and McLaurin. The Broncos veteran receiver received a 4-year, $92 million extension Monday. We find out what the guarantee is on Cortland Sutton's contract. Remember on the video, I said, I guarantee you, with 4 years of contract, this man does not get more than 2 years guaranteed. Well, guess what? He did not get 2 full years guaranteed on this deal. He got $41 million. $46 million would be 2 full years guaranteed. 4 years, 92. That's 23 a year and only 41 million in guarantee. I told you, when they present a contract to the public without the guarantee, it's a nasty guarantee, and the agent is posturing by selling you the bigger number. And here we go. Correct again. Sources tell me they believe the Commanders will offer a deal with an annual payout slightly higher than Sutton. The holdup would be McLaurin demanding more than $30 million. People tell me they don't feel the franchise would be willing to go that high for one Terry McLaurin. When you say slightly better than Cortland Sutton is when it starts to feel disrespectful, but that would be subjective on what you consider slightly, because I think 28 million could be considered slight 28, 28 and a half. 29 million could be considered slightly more because it's a few more, but that's significant to me. That sounds like a significant pay raise for me. But because I feel like you start as Adam Peters and company, you start the conversation with Mike Evans because why not? Future Hall of Famer, still at the top of his game, $26 million a year over $35 million guaranteed. You started at 26 and the highest you go is Amon Ra and Tariq Hill at 30 million. Those are the reasonable numbers for a receiver whose extension will be kicking in during its age 31 season. Look at all of the names on this list. Jamar, Justin, CD, DK, AJ, Garrett Wilson, Amon Ra, Tyreek, Brandon, IU, T. Higgins. The one common denominator here is that none of them were age 30 seasons going into their contract negotiations. It's a bunch of 25 through 27-year-olds negotiating contract. Age fucking matters. It matters in the real world. It matters at your corporate job. It matters in the business of sport. And in the league that they call the not for long league, that plays a large role in a contract negotiation. Cortland Sutton money? Nah, we're not doing that because that's what Terry's currently getting here. And his guarantee wasn't crazy. This feels like 3 years, $86-87 million should get it done. That's a big raise. You go from a 3-year, $68 million deal to a 3-year, $88 million deal. You get a $20 million raise. A $20 million raise, 3-year contract, takes you into age 34. And what it does strategically from Adam Peters' side is it gets Terry off the books, or it props up the chance to have a younger wide receiver 1 and Terry transition into wide receiver 2 at the time where Jaden Daniels will have to be getting paid a monumental contract. And that is called foresight. Because when Terry's turning 34 years old, we need to have a younger, better wide receiver ready to take the reins at the number 1 spot, and Terry falling to a number 2 type receiver here in DC and play the Larry Fitzgerald mentor role over his swan song seasons if he's going to continue to play. So we're no closer to it. What's next? Here's what's next. We're either going to see Terry hold out to late August and getting an extension maybe a week or so before the start of the regular season, pull the CD Lamb and miss all of training camp. 2, he can throw up one final Hail Mary from his weak-ass agent and request a trade, not demand, request, because those are 2 different words, and demand sounds so much more aggressive than request. He can throw out a trade as his next piece of leverage. But I think after the Eastern Motors thing and the showing up to camp to hold in situation, it could get nasty if you request a trade. But it's a part of the rollout of getting a contract sometimes. Sometimes you got to request a trade even if you don't mean that shit. Sometimes you got to look your GM in the eye. I want to get out of here, even though you don't want to get out of here. You're trying to make him pay you. Terry McLaurin, my brother, I don't think 32 to 35 million is reasonable or in your future. So that begs me the question, if a trade request were to take place, what better situation are you going to go to in Washington that pays you significantly more than DC? What contending team right now in 25 is going to offer a significant asset or draft capital and a contract significantly more than what Washington's putting on the table? You've built a life here in DC. You have the hottest up-and-coming quarterback in the league. You're going to be a legend here for life. You're going to have a full-time gig somewhere within this organization for the rest of your life. Your name's going to go in the rafters of the new stadium that we put down, and we're ready and finally ready to compete for championships here in DC. taking a 28, $29 million a year contract here rather than going to a team like the rebuilding startup Patriots who are willing to give you 30 to 31 million. I don't think those couple $1 million a year are worth the headache or the trouble or the starting over somewhere. But they do got a young hotshot quarterback over there, but they got a lot of new moving parts over there. So what is the situation that's better than here? This is going to get done because it has to, because Washington needs Terry McLaurin to compete for championships during Jaden Daniels' rookie contract title window. And it also is going to get done because, to be perfectly honest, there is no better situation than Washington for Terry that is going to significantly pay him more than what Adam Peters and company are putting on the table for him in 2025. And that is a fact. No matter how emotional you'd like to get about the discussion, these are factual. Let's talk about it. Let me know your opinion in the comments on what comes next in the Terry McLaurin saga. You're going to keep seeing me talk about it, ramble about it, and make videos about it because this is the number one headline of our training camp. We love all the football conversation, especially on a day off. This is the conversation driver until Washington and Terry McLaurin come to a solution. But that is all I got for right now. Make sure y'all lock in. I'm going to have NFL Insider and my brother, Lake Lewis Jr., on the channel at 1:30 p.m. today to talk about this Terry negotiation, to talk about training camp, pads on, who stands out, who needs to show more, all of that good stuff. And as well, make sure y'all lock in with me and my brothers with the Commanders Kings. We are doing our first live event, our first live podcast event at Crystal City Sports Pub coming up on August 24th. Make sure y'all lock in with the guys. Tickets are $45. I will drop the link in the comments below. Make sure y'all rock with the guys, man. Commanders Kings live tonight, by the way. I believe at 9 p.m. I need y'all to come get these tickets and come fellowship with your Commanders brethren. Here's the flyer one more time. I'll drop the link in the chat. Come rock with the boys August 24th. Doors open at 5. The event starts at 5:45. We're rocking to about 9 o'clock. Come be a part of the show as we break down our season preview, record predictions, and 53-man roster predictions live in the flesh. Have a drink, have some food, and have some good times. Let's rock, man. With them tickets are selling fast. We got 150. Well, we don't have 150 available anymore, but we're selling up to 150 tickets to this event. Make sure y'all rock with the guy and make sure y'all tune in to my live at 1:30 and the Commanders Kings live tonight, somewhere between 8:45 and 9. Y'all know we running on CP time, but hell to the Washington Commanders. It's your boy Rio Robinson. Until next time, salute.